So today our format is going to be a little bit different. We'll be, after the Dharma talk, we'll meditate for 20 minutes, have 10 minutes for reflection, and then have 20 minutes for sharing in the larger group this morning. So I'm going to be continuing with the question that we got asked. I'll read it again. This is from a Sangha member who asks if the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha are of equal value. And in the meditation, she had pictured the Buddha as a big wheel of cheese, full, round, nourishing, and consistent throughout, that the Dharma was slices of the wheel of cheese, equally nourishing, consistent, and full of truth, and that the Sangha is more like cheese and crackers and tea and kind of a mess, fraught with human inconsistency, like who's going to bring the cheese and crackers, who's going to clean up after, are they fresh? And so she asks, why is the Sangha considered a jewel? So I'm going to start with a quote this morning from Thich Nat Hahn, who's a Vietnamese monk and a peace activist. He recently passed away. And he famously said, the next Buddha will be a Sangha. So what does he mean by that? In Buddhism, Sangha is one of the three jewels and translated as community. So what does it mean that this will be the next Buddha? That we, our group, will be the next Buddha. How he talked about it is it means that we need not just our teachers or our practice, but we also need a community around us in order to protect us and to nourish us. And that this is true whether our practice is political, spiritual, or both. Again, he comes from this peace activist place as well as a spiritual Buddhist practice. But he says we need each other. And the art of Sangha building is crucial to our practice. And I love that statement. I hadn't come upon it before because I really want to highlight this, is that community building is an art. Art is notoriously messy, at times peppered with mistakes and errors, and never really quite coming out with a finished product. If you talk to most artists, even with their pieces of what they would consider art, it's never really fully finished. So here I'm going to bring in two scholars, Anne Gleig and Amy Langenburg, because art can be studied and learned from. And they are actually doing that. They're studying the art of building healthy sanghas. And their research, they're going to be publishing a book, but it won't come out until 2025. So along the way, they're giving us some articles. And I'm going to quote from an article in Lion's Roar, which is one of the online, and also you can get it in hard copy. It's one of the Buddhist newsletters or oh God, I'm blanking. Magazine. It's a magazine. That's what it is. Magazines that has articles from mostly the Tibetan tradition, but from other traditions, Vipassana, which we consider ourselves part of a Vipassana tradition. So this is from an article on December 6th. In March 1993, 30 years ago, a group of 22 Western Buddhist teachers representing different lineages met with the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala, India, to discuss the transmission and adaptation of Buddhism in the West. One of their central topics was ethical teacher conduct. Participants reflected on differences between seeing the teacher as a living Buddha and as a human spiritual friend, on differences between hierarchical and democratic models of authority, and Tibetan monastic versus American lay teacher trainings. And this is something I didn't know. At the end of the conference, the teachers formed a network of Western Buddhist teachers and issued an open letter which stated, no matter what level of spiritual attainment a teacher has, or claims to have reached, no person can stand above the norms of ethical conduct. Now, I've never seen that letter, but apparently it was written and given out. And this is, pretty typical within Sanghas. We don't all know what's going on in each other's Sanghas or each other's traditions. But one thing that it said to me was that we are in agreement. Ethical conduct trumps any attainment. But then they go on to talk about, while we all agree with that, we don't agree on how to do it or what ethical conduct is. So this is another paragraph. There have been difficulties in establishing common ethical policies and procedures. And this is due to multiple reasons, they say. This is from their research. The sense that Dharma transmission places teachers above conventional ethics. Disagreements about what should be included in those ethical standards. Insistence that the traditional precepts are sufficient. Complaints of organizational overreach. Interpersonal dynamics between teachers, and the culture of American individualism. So that's really a pickle. I'm really adding a pickle to the cheese and crackers here. The art of Sangha building is up against some pretty hefty odds. And yet, there are many Sanghas that are finding healthy recipes for practice together. We had our own storm in 2016 and went through a period of disillusionment, but we've really come together and come out to a different shore, a different side. We have I think, this is my opinion, we have very good conditions in our Sangha now. Though we rely upon each other, most of us don't live in each other's lives. We don't depend on each other the way we do our intimates and friends and associates. We don't have those kind of dependencies in an online community. Our interdependency really revolves around doing the practice together and continuing to support others to do this. And we do have some tensions around this. Right now, we have a tension of how to continue this with limited energy and resources. How does reflective meditation survive with an aging Dharma community? So what I've seen and how I want to talk about it this morning is I've seen a development in our community, in our Sangha, and that is what I would call reliability. So even though we're subject to inconsistency, imperfection, and we're pickled, we have a group of reliable people in our Sangha who reliably rely on their practice of reflective meditation. We have expectations with each other to reflect upon when we're not reliable, when we have possibly caused harm, and a willingness to go through a repair process. I mean, we have grievance procedures, we have ethical codes. These are established, and we haven't had to use any of the grievance procedures yet, but they're there. They're not something we'll have to create if something goes wrong. But this reliability for me has become very precious. And this is in the way I see the Sangha as a jewel. It shines differently with different light. And I feel very fortunate to be part of this artistic co-creation that we've been doing together. And it's still mysterious to me, where it's not permanent, and it's definitely not a finished product, but it is happening right now. And I really like to, to highlight the preciousness of this together. So thank you for listening this morning, for being here.